Quick one guys, so in today's tutorial we'll be taking a look at how to create this distorted zoom transition within After Effects without using any external plugin or whatsoever. So without wasting much time, let's jump straight into the tutorial. First I'm going to do here is to create a new composition. I'm going to call it name, then I'm going to make it 9020 by 1080, duration is 8 seconds. So right now I'm going to import the two videos I want to create transitions in between. So the first I'm going to click on the first video, I'll drag into the timeline. I'll also click on the second video, I'll drag into the composition. As you can see, the resolution of the video is different from the sequence settings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale up the video. These are two random videos I got from the internet, so I'm not expecting the resolution to be the highest quality. So I'm going to hold my Alt and right bracket just to trim it off at 4 seconds. So I'll select the second video layer. I'm going to drag and move it right about 4 seconds. I'll right click and create a new adjustment layer. Then I'm going to select the adjustment layer and also trim it off at 4 seconds. And I'll make sure I trim it off perfectly. Then I'm going to move about 15 frames backward. About 15 frames backward. Then I'm going to hold my Alt and left bracket just to trim it off right about that point, as you can see. So under my effect and preset, I'll search for transform, then I'll click on transform and I'll drop it on our new adjustment layer. So I'm going to keyframe the scale. I'll move about 4 seconds. I'll change the scale to about 300. Then I'm going to uncheck the use composition shutter angle and I'm going to change the shutter angle to 360. Then I'm going to leave it just like that. So I'll select my adjustment layer. I'm going to edit, I'm going to duplicate it. Then I'm going to move it over to the other side, making it snap at the middle. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the number of frames to about 20 frames. Then I'm going to click and drag just like that to 20 frames. And I'm going to select my adjustment layer. I'll press S to bring out the scale. I'll change the first property of the scale. I'll change it to 25. Then I'll move to the last scale property and I'm going to change it to 100. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the last keyframe just to the end because I've adjusted the length of our layer. So I'm going to move it right about 20 frames. So I'm going to close that up and I'm going to select the two adjustment layers. I'll press U to reveal all the keyframes. Then I'll click and drag over all the keyframes. I'll right click, keyframe assistant, then I'm going to easy the keyframes. I'll go to the graph editor. I'll make sure the edit speed graph is checked. So I'm going to select the first keyframe just like that and drag in the handles, and the last keyframe I'll also drag in the handles. Then also the middle keyframes I'll drag it just like that. Select it, I'm going to drag it in just a little bit, just like this. So I'm going to click out of the speed graph, and the next thing is to fill out all the black edges, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to effect and preset, and I'm going to search for motion tile. I'm going to click and drag on it. So as you can see, I'm selecting the two adjustment layer. What I have to do is I have to just select the first adjustment layer. So I'm going to click and drop it on the adjustment layer. Then I'm going to move the motion tile just above the transform effect. So what I'm going to do is I'll change the output width to 400. Then also change the output height to 400. Then as you can see, I'll tick the mirror edges just to blend in everything together. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick preview. As you can see, we are getting there gradually. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. Then this new adjustment layer, I'm going to trim it off at the beginning of our first adjustment layer, and I'm going to trim it out where our last adjustment layer stops. So I'm going to my effect and preset. I'm going to search for optics compensation. I'm going to click and drag on our new adjustment layer. So I'm going to come right at the middle, which is about 4 seconds. Then I'm going to change the field of view to about 160. And I'm going to make sure I check the reverse lens distortion. Then I'm going to keyframe the field of view. I'll move to the beginning of the adjustment layer and I'm going to change the field of view to 0. And also move to the end of our adjustment layer and I'm going to try and trim it off just to match the adjustment layer, and I'm going to change the field of view to 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press U to reveal all my keyframes. I'll drag and select all. I'll right click, keyframe assistant. I'm going to easy ease. So I'm going to the graph editor and I'm going to adjust the speed graph. I'll select this first keyframe, I'll drag it in just like that. That's all we have to do. Then I'll click out of the speed graph. So let's have a quick preview. So the next to do now is to add a little bit of RGB split to make the transition more interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my adjustment layer 2. I'll go to edit and I'm going to duplicate. So I'll select the new duplicated adjustment layer. I'll delete the optics composition. Then I'll come to effect and preset. I'll search for motion tile. I'll click and I'm going to drag. Then I'm also going to search for the effect called tint. Then I'm going to click and drag under color correction. Then our last effect will be emboss, EMBOSS. So I'm going to click under stylize and I'm going to drag. So let's adjust a few parameters here. I'll first select mirror edges on the motion tile. Then under the map black tool, I'm going to change it to a little bit of red. Under the map white tool, I'm going to change it to a little bit of let me say cyan. I'll click OK. Then under our emboss, I'll come to the beginning of our adjustment layer. I'll change the direction to 180. I'll write the keyframe on the relief and I'll come to the middle of our adjustment layer, which is about 4 seconds, and I'll change the relief value to 10. Then I'm going to move to the end of the adjustment layer and I'm going to change the relief to 0. So we now have a keyframe across it. So I'll change the blend mode to add light. Then I'm going to press U on my keyboard to reveal all the keyframes. So I'll drag and select over all the keyframes. I'll right click and I'm going to keyframe assistant easy ease. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to the graph editor. I'll select the first keyframe. I'll click and drag it in just like that. And the last keyframe, I'll click and drag it in just like that. Then our middle keyframe too, I'll click and I'm going to click, I'm going to drag in just a little bit like that. So yeah, let's have a quick preview. Here is a unique way in which you can create a distorted zoom transition in After Effects. Thank you for sticking to the end of this tutorial. Till we meet next time.